An American rifle worth $32 billion was taking him to war. A father of African and mother of South Indian, Kamala Harris. Is she becoming the American president? Her election campaign was becoming a game of a thief soldier. Kamala Harris gave a public briefing and said that she was not silent on the bloodshed in Gaza. Civil war was taking place at a distance of half an inch from America. Pakistan, Ukraine, Israel, Russia, China, and Taiwan. Why is the hope of conservative leaders only with Donald Trump? How is it friends? A rifle that is sold in America is the one that has brought this country to the core of the Civil War. Even before this rifle has taken the lives of hundreds of Americans, and especially school children. But no one has yet been able to ban this killer rifle from being sold. No one in the court, Congress, or the House has the courage to do so. This killer rifle is the AR-15 style, which was sold in 1950. American soldiers were prepared for the war in the 1950s. In the 60s and 70s, the American soldiers had this basic gun in the Vietnam War. But when America returned from the Vietnam War, the dealers who sold guns did not fail. Rather, they started selling this killer AR-15 rifle in American shopping centers and grocery stores. The gun lobby earned billions of dollars from the sale of this rifle. How many billions of dollars? You can guess it by the fact that the price of this gun is written on its side from $500 to $3,000, because the price is different with different styles and specs, and this gun was sold so much that one of the 20 American men has it. It is estimated that 1.6 crore Americans have this gun. No one knows how many secret agents have it. So if we keep the minimum number of people and the price of the gun in the middle of the line, has earned $32 billion. Today, every gun dealer in America is making copies of this gun. Key rings and shirts are also made for marketing. Free shooting tests are also given to run and buy this gun. American businessmen are ready to sell this gun and make profit. More than 40,000 American citizens have died in the game. That means a depression victim entered the school and killed the children or killed himself. The biggest political supporters of guns freedom are the Republicans. Some of the senators of the United States also consider this gun as a national duty. They have declared it a national gun. In 2017-22, the Americans fired more than 207 of their own American citizens. Most of them were children and pregnant women. Now this was the favorite of the Republicans, the national gun AR-15, through which a 20-year-old young man, Matthew Crooks, fired 6 bullets at U.S. President Donald Trump. If Donald Trump had not turned his back on the U.S., the AR-15 rifle would have hit his head, and America would have been in a terrible war. Because after the American Civil War of the 1860s, it was the first time that America had a terrible political distribution, such a deep distribution that the opponents were not even willing to accept each other's human rights. So if Donald Trump had become the target of the AR-15, the threat of a civil war could not be ignored. If anyone has doubts that Donald Trump cannot do this, then watch the footage of 6th of January 2021. Now look at the Americans and Republicans did not show any desire to ban the use of guns and rifles. The reason is that the dark economy of billions of dollars is behind it. The economy which gives funds to the presidents and senators to be elected. One of the American lobbies is stuck in slavery. These lobbies are gun control, Israeli, weapon manufacturers, and drug industry. These are the U.S. establishments, and Pentagon stands with them because of its military machine. American presidents and White Horse policymakers cannot make any policy without their attention. If they do, they cannot make it happen. So we were talking about America being half an inch away from the worst of the worst, but this half inch took the election campaign of President Donald Trump to the sky. His campaign reached the 7th heaven. The leaders of the world who were hoping for the return of Donald Trump started to think of this event as a sacred resurrection. According to evangelist Christians and Orthodox white Americans, faith, sympathy, and divine commandment are now required to stand with Donald Trump. Donald Trump himself has said that only God has saved him. It means that God has saved America. Donald Trump cannot be considered guilty in this way because his supporters worship him as an angel. When Donald Trump got injured and bandaged his ears, his cult-minded followers also put on earplugs. In the July 18th session, almost every Trumpian had put on earplugs. It was all about Donald Trump, who was leading Biden on the Democratic after this unsuccessful attack. He will take a lot of votes in every survey and will make the momentum of victory. That will last until November 5, and he will win. But it could not be so. After a few days of this attack, a small and a big incident, not only did it not only put a brake on the growing popularity of Donald Trump, but also brought it back. The first small incident was a survey result. When the Americans asked the American people about who would they vote for after the failed attack on Donald Trump, the answer came from far away. And you know that there is a margin of error in the survey, so this was one incident. But the second incident was a big surprise. The second incident was the talk of the town attack on Donald Trump. This incident was the main reason for the delay. The new incident was the news that 81-year-old President Joe Biden has finally left the presidency. He wrote that he will focus his attention on completing the rest of the presidential term. This letter immediately spread on social media. The debate on Trump's acceptance in the country and the world was discussed in the air, because the Democrats had been discussing for years that they should bring a fit candidate for Joe Biden. But Joe Biden was adamant that he was fit and would not be out. Then Trump was making fun of Joe Biden's age and health. He was making his presidential campaign shine on social media. But Trump and Trumpians were not convinced that the same old joke would be repeated. As Joe Biden separated himself from the campaign, the oldest candidate in American history is now Donald Trump. Biden tweeted another tweet and named his new president Kamala Harris, 59 years old, as a candidate. Now Donald Trump's opponent was less than 20 years old, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was nominated as America was waiting for her. She got record-breaking funds on the first day of her informal nomination, which Joe Biden could not get from the campaign of many months. Kamala Harris received $100 million in 24 hours, which reached $126 million in the next few hours. That is, she got 12.6 crore in one day and some of it. So far, Barack Obama has been endorsed by every important fundraiser and Democratic leader. Now she has to appoint her own vice president, who will certainly be a white male American, so that it can be balanced. Before we proceed, let's know about Kamala Harris, a black father from Jamaica. She is his daughter, and his mother belonged to Tamil region Chennai, South India. Kamala Harris was influenced by her mother. She became a senator and then became the vice president. During her practice in California and San Francisco, she punished those who committed fraud, those who changed the rules and made money, those who used fraudulent schemes, and those who abused women, punished them and put pressure on them. And it is the third most dangerous thing for those who campaign against him, because the old age of the American presidential campaign is now replaced by the game of the thief. Donald Trump has been facing charges of fraud cases in his university. He has faced accusations from women. He has given himself a smart certificate many times for not paying taxes. He is a tax thief or a levator. Kamala Harris has been running after such criminals in her entire practical life. She has been dealing with them and punishing them. That is why she said in her first press appearance after her nomination that she knows the type of fraudsters like Donald Trump. I know Donald Trump's type. This is important because in the presidential campaign, Kamala Harris's confidence will be that of the prosecutor who is used to, and Donald Trump will not be able to hide his white-collar crimes from an expert attorney. And in comparison to Harris, Donald Trump's confidence will be that of a thief. For example, a prosecutor tells in every meeting how and where you have done fraud, and the thief tries to hide it and tells that he has not done it. This energy in this equation can be seen on the set. This impression has spread so fast that after the first announcement, in less than a week, Donald Trump's 6% of Democrats were 5% behind Biden, and Kamala's difference is only 1%. According to CNN, after his nomination, 8% of black voters, 5% women voters, and 4% young voters have been added to his support. The hope of Muslim and Arab voters has increased because Kamala's stand on Gaza war is very different from Joe Biden. First of all, he does not call himself a Zionist like Joe Biden. Then, when Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu visited the United States 6 times and met with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on July 25th, an interesting situation arose. After the meeting, the U.S. President Joe Biden gave a public remarks, but Vice President Kamala Harris was sent to public remarks. She read a written message about the ceasefire and said that the situation in Gaza is dire humanitarian situation, and we cannot ignore it. We want to see Israel safe and the Palestinians in a free country. We will stop anti-Jewish and anti-Islamic forces. She also expressed with the Prime Minister my serious concern about the scale of human suffering in Gaza, including the death of far too many innocent civilians. And I made clear my serious concern about the dire humanitarian situation there. This does not mean that Kamala Harris is supporting the Palestinians instead of Israel. A few moments earlier than Kamala Harris's remarks. By the way, Netanyahu's welcome in the U.S. Joint House was such that the American leaders' sick minds were clear. The thing that was evident in the welcome was that during the speech of Netanyahu, all the American leaders, senators, and representatives stood up 65 times and applauded for the speech. He was standing up twice in a sentence. If you see this speech, you will be very sad about American leadership, and it will not be difficult to understand why America is in the middle of the lobby issue. So the love and support of the Americans for Israel seem to be the same. After this, Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden will also take the same attitude after meeting with Netanyahu, and will only talk about making them happy and innocent people so that their guests do not feel sad. But this did not happen. Kamala Harris spoke all the words and sentences of the leaders of the United States for 2.5 minutes. Then in the next 6 minutes, she spoke about the many deaths and the ceasefire deal in Gaza. As we have shown you, comrades, can Kamala Harris become the first American woman president or not? How much does Donald Trump care? It is difficult to say now because there are still about 100 days left in election. But one thing can be said with complete certainty and proof is that Kamala Harris is going to be much more tough than Joe Biden in the Donald Trump's competition. Secondly, Kamala Harris has started gaining momentum. He has gained momentum, which is the most important thing in any election campaign. Along with this, many leaders of the world who had hopes of victory from Donald Trump are also worried, like Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, who had got the Eurochannel to accept the Israeli capital in the first term. He had ended the peace deal with Iran and had got the Golan Heights of Syria to accept the Israeli share. He is also worried. Will be seen in the world. Russian President Vladimir Putin is also one of them. You know that Donald Trump is against the Ukraine war. He has openly expressed that when he comes to the White House, he will let the Russian president do whatever he wants with Ukraine. The United States will not take care of the European members who do not give funds, and if he comes to the White House, he may start working with Leet Olal to create problems. Similarly, Pakistan also hopes that the PTI will be lessened by the coming of the president. Xi Jinping also felt easy to deal with Donald Trump in China, because dealing with emotional leaders is much easier than dealing with a smart leader. You have seen the details of Xi Jinping's issue in our studio. You must have seen it in the episode of Great Game. All these friends are afraid of Donald Trump because he has threatened to close the funds of NATO. In fact, he has said that he can also expel America from NATO. The U.S. election in November 2024 is going to be the most important election of the 21st century. it will bring a lot of geostrategic changes. You will see a new world from 2025. This is not the first time in U.S. history that such changes have occurred, when the change in leadership in America not only changed their domestic issues, but also their domestic circumstances. In fact, the geostrategic issues turned to a new angle in the whole world.